As he and Peter exited the office, a middle-aged man, Mike Davis, walked in through the front entrance and stood in the main lobby. As Ramous approached, Mike said, "Wow, these roads are dark. I passed 3 times before I found this place. You need a sign out front." "We haven't hung our business sign out yet." "How are you?" "Good, thanks." They both walked into the sitting room and sat. "Ramous, I suspect you went into town looking for the files Zoe told you about. Did you find them?" "Mike, I had several reasons to go into Portland, none of which had anything to do with St. Paul, although I drove by the building and saw the vacancy signs, so I stopped." "Right. They closed the building and sent everyone home. Management gave only 1 day's advance notice. Something big happened to cause them to vacate so quickly. When I arrived at work, security ushered me out the door, and they told me nothing other than to take a vacation. I was told a supervisor would contact me within the next week regarding a new assignment. They gave all the scientists in the labs only 1 day to vacate too. They reassigned most to Seattle, and a small group was sent to Florida. St. Paul's main labs are in Seattle, and I don't know anything about the one in Orlando. In the past, when something like this happens, they gave management a warning in advance and also supplied us with a narrative for the news media to go with the warning. Afterward, the media always reported troubling news about the corporation. I haven't gone home since I left the office. Instead, I went downtown Portland and checked into a hotel. I believe I was the only one ushered out of the building, and I'm sure it was for a reason. St. Paul has not contacted me yet. I suspect they'll fire me, but it doesn't matter, I don't enjoy working for them anyway, never have." Emily came in, interrupted, and set coffee before both of them. She was supposed to have gone to bed. They waited until she left the room before they talked again. Ramous was concerned Emily might be eavesdropping. "Mike, I believe my hotel manager is trying to figure out what's going on. She moves around too quietly at the most unusual times. She was supposed to have gone to bed a while ago. I'm working hard to keep all of this from her. If she finds out, I might have to fire her and send her back to Ireland. I don't want to send her back, but I will if she gets too nosy. I'm telling you this, so you won't assume she knows what's going on. She doesn't." "Okay, Ram. Now, regarding the gens, the second gens interrupted an operation in Tacoma where 6 first gens were converging on the family of a woman on the list. They had already killed 2 of the family members and were waiting for 2 others to return home when the second gens caught them. I can't put my finger on it, but none of these acts regarding the list make sense. After all the years they worked for St. Paul, and suddenly, they want to kill their maternal families. Someone has encouraged them to do this. I suspect it's Sawyer, although it makes little sense. Sawyer is an absolute jerk, but there's probably someone higher than him pulling strings. Anyway, St. Paul had their murders covered up and called it a home invasion." Ramous became angry. "Just more to add to the murder list." Mike said, "Zoe told me she was unaware of the move by St. Paul. She and the rest of the second gens are operating out of Vancouver, Salmon Creek, where Terry rented space to give them a base of operations. Zoe said Terry was not aware of the move out of Portland either and assumed that it had nothing to do with the second gens and their current operations. She admitted, something scared them, and they reacted by closing down the Portland office." "Ramous, what about the files in Portland? Did you find them?" Ramous gave Davis a hard observant stare. Mike squirmed waiting for an answer, but Ramous had to size him up before telling him about the files he collected that day. "I found more files and thumb drives, and secured them in a safe place. They contained names, sources of funding, espionage, and details regarding several illegal experiments." "So, you reviewed the material? It would be smart of you not to keep it here with you. I might add, most of the information is highly classified, and if you've looked at it, you would know that you have broken several federal laws. That won't matter because if St. Paul finds out you have those files, you will be dead before you go to trial. Now, for your safety, get the information out into the public. Now's the time to do so. Take the information into the Oregonian and get in contact with a reporter named Billy Johnson. She's not on the St. Paul payroll. You can trust her. That should get the information on the evening news and prevent your lynching. Let's stop St. Paul together, okay? Ramous slid back in his chair, staring again at Mike as he stared back. What a mess this is. I was a small-town police chief with a wonderful ability to mind my own business. Then, in one moment, I'm involved in an international incident, and everyone around me is in danger because of it. If it weren't for the death of my friends, I would walk away from this whole mess. But I want to prosecute Sawyer and anyone else involved with those deaths, and I'll be relentless. I understand. I didn't ask for any of this either. I had a good-paying job and good friends. Now, I'm on the run. Life changes without notice, and too often, we find ourselves in a place we never imagined. Speaking of being on the run, I'm moving into a hotel here in Tillamook. I'm nervous about returning to Portland. I suspect they're aware I have been in contact with Zoe, which they don't, or won't like. St. Paul always gets suspicious when a person or persons outside of a project interact with those involved in a project, like the Angel Project. They have always fired them once they found out. I'm just going to lie low, and will call you the day after tomorrow for any updates. Alright, do you want to give me a number, and I'll call you? No, I'm not using my company cell any longer. I'm sure it's compromised. I pulled the battery out, so the GPS won't give me away. Tomorrow, I'll purchase 2 burners and give you those numbers so we can keep in contact. Mike, keep me updated, please. I'll need more information on who's responsible for killing my friends. Again, I'll not stop my efforts to bring them to justice. That's my top priority. Davis acknowledged, shook Ramous' hand, and left to find a hotel in town. The next day Ramous called into the Oregonian. He only had to call in and speak with management to get a reporter to come to Tillamook. Because he was the police chief, they knew it was newsworthy. Billy Johnson walked into the Tillamook police station at 11 a.m. Good morning. Is Chief Rignor in? Yes, 1 second, Claire answered. Then, called the chief telling him the reporter was there. Ramous walked out to meet the young reporter with the Oregonian newspaper, and ABC News in Portland. She introduced herself and followed him into his office. Ramous thought she was too young for taking on such a big story. I expected I would have to come to see you, but thanks for coming here. I hope this information will start a federal investigation and reel in one of the largest and richest corporations in America. Can you handle such a big story? Yes. What corporation are you referring to? St. Paul Research Corporation. I suspect the information I have will destroy them as it involves money laundering, corruption, murder and crimes against humanity, and several other illegal acts. I believe this information is dangerous for anyone who holds the files until they're released. Please understand. I'll keep it undercover until it airs. Good. But I plan to assign an officer to you. Please don't provide information to the officer. I'll instruct him not to ask questions. If he does, please contact me, and I'll set him straight. I can't tell you how important it is you follow that rule. Is it all right if I share this information with my superiors? Yes, I'm counting on it. I hope you do so as soon as you get back, and please have as many people review the information as you can. Until you do, neither you nor my officer is safe. No one else besides us knows about this information at the moment. Again, get it in front of as many people in your agency as you can. Please do this as soon as you get back to Portland. I will. The meeting is already scheduled. Ramous called Larry into the office and told him to go with Miss Johnson. Larry, consider this young lady to be in witness protection. Don't ask why and don't let her out of your sight. I'll contact you when you're done. You will need to stay in Portland overnight, and perhaps 2 days. Get $500 from accounting to cover expenses. I'm asking you to trust me and ask no questions. I'll explain when you get back. Ramous gave the young reporter copies of all the information he had. Officer Larry and the young reporter left at 1 p.m. for Portland. So, he wouldn't be noticeable, Larry drove his personal vehicle. Once Billy was back at the office, She met with everyone she could lure into the conference room. She explained everything Ramous told her and opened the files, revealing the damaging evidence about the St. Paul Corporation. Half of the room found the information damning, and the other half didn't believe what was being revealed. Their legal team wasn't sure the information could endure in a court of law. The station, once they verified the information, planned to broadcast it over the next 2 days. The next morning, Mike Davis called Ramous to find out whether he turned the material over to the media. "Yes, I turned all the files over yesterday to the young reported, Billy Johnson, with ABC News. I expect it will take a couple days to verify the information before they broadcast. I sent an officer for protection until such a time they did, or reject the story. They better not reject it. I'll call ABC today. I'm familiar with a few people in their organization and will support its authenticity, and I'm confident they will broadcast the story. Thanks, Ramous. Now, I'll try to find out if there was anyone above Sawyer responsible for the murder of your friends. I'll contact you once I find out. You could have done so before. Now, I'm mad. Listen. If you want my cooperation, you better give me cooperation back." Ramous didn't wait for Mike to say goodbye and hung up and walked out onto the back deck. As he was standing there, Stephen approached him. "Hi, Ram. How are you doing?" "I'm good, mad, but good. How are you? Have you talked with Emily yet?" "Yes, I did. Why didn't you talk to me yourself?" "I have been so busy and preoccupied." "She's competent and only told you what I told her to tell you. We have talked about this before. Has anything changed? Are you still interested in working full-time?" "I am, but I wasn't told when I'd be starting. When's my first day?" "Bro, I need you to start today." "Is that a problem?" "Yes." "Are you serious, Ram? Can you give me 2 days to finish 3 projects I'm in the middle of?" "Well, Stephen, maybe I should find another groundskeeper, one more eager to get on the job." Ramous tried to laugh, but was too angry. "No problem, whenever you're ready to start will be fine. However, there will be a truckload of furniture coming next Monday. Emily will need your help to unload and place it. I only need 2 days. It shouldn't be a problem." Ramous was happy to bring him back full-time. It was becoming more like the old days as the reopening of the bed and breakfast drew near. Stephen sensed Ramous was mad, so he returned home and left him to stew. Ramous was still mad at Mike Davis and wanted to arrest anyone and everyone responsible for the murder of the 2 officers, his friends, as did the rest of the force along the coast. He already suspected the order came from someone higher than Sawyer, and even though he was mad, he hoped Mike would find out those names. Ramous walked back into the kitchen where Emily was making tuna fish sandwiches and tomato soup. "Do you put dill pickles in your tuna fish?" "Yes, I do." "Will you marry me?" "No, I don't think so. Are you going to be a problem while I'm working here?" "Well, if you continue making tuna fish with dill pickles added, I'll fall in love with you, and I can't be moping around all day long being rejected by you as you make your potion number 9 tuna fish. I guess it's good you nipped it at the bud before it went anywhere." "Thank you, I guess. Do you want tomato soup with your sandwich?" "You're pushing it, aren't you?" "Yes, please." Ramous took his lunch, returned to the back deck, and sat at the table to eat his lunch. Emily joined him. He told her Stephen came and talked with him. She forgot to tell him when to start. Ramous told her he took care of it and he would start in 2 days. Also, he was available to help unload and set up the new furniture. Ramous took a relaxing look around the courtyard to calm down. It was a beautiful courtyard, gardens were blooming, and the smell of spring was being carried around by slight breezes. He needed to unwind. They had a pleasant conversation, and work wasn't mentioned. Emily told him about life back in Ireland, how she liked the Oregon coast, and how she needed a car. Ramous forgot about the car. "When you use the business visa, they will call me to verify, but it shouldn't be a problem. No exotic race cars, okay? Can Peter take me around?" He claims he's the perfect negotiator. Ramous was concerned, but Peter has proved himself to be discreet. Sure, if he can make himself useful, let him have at it. By the way, where's Peter? I asked him to go over the books. He's an accountant. So, I'm keeping him busy in the office, performing. I could use him to keep the books for the beachcomber. Emily, he's a nice guy, but he's a witness in an investigation. Once it's finished, he will probably go back to Portland. You're not leaving with him, are you? Nah, I'm staying here. I won't get involved in a long-distance relationship. He'll be on his own if he moves back to Portland. She chuckled. Ramous sensed the two were getting serious. Have you talked to Peter about it? We have discussed it on and off. It's a real cut in pay for him, but if I'm correct, and we hire him, you will offer a place to stay and a salary, right? That's what you did for the last bookkeeper. Well, the last bookkeeper was my mother, and there weren't any apartments available in town at the time. Are you negotiating with me? Yep. Emily, as long as you bring in $10,000 a month, I don't care what you do. So, let's see what happens after this investigation is over, and we will figure it out then. Okay. Would you like more soup? No, thank you. I'm full, but I plan to sit here for a while and unwind before I go home. Okay. Emily collected the dishes and went inside. After sitting and proverbially smelling the roses for the next 15 minutes, his cell rang. Mike Davis called to tell him he contacted ABC and confirmed the information included in the material Ramous gave to Miss Johnson. Davis knew several people at the organization, and they knew him and his position within the St. Paul Corporation. ABC scheduled a release of the information on the evening news for the following day. That evening, Billy was sitting with her boyfriend eating dinner. Larry was sitting in his car across the street for the second night, eating pizza. A man, in an overcoat, approached Larry's car and fired 2 shots into his head. Larry slumped forward in the car. No one heard the shots as the man used a silencer. Then, the man walked across the street to Billy's home and knocked on the door. Her boyfriend answered, and the man fired 2 more shots into her boyfriend's head. Afterward, he walked into the house, fired 2 more shots into Billy's head. When he was done, he walked out the front door without closing it and disappeared into the night. The next morning the paperboy noticed the body of Billy's boyfriend lying in the doorway. He called 911. Officers called forensics to the crime scene. It was another 2 hours before they found Larry sitting in his car. He had survived the gunshots. Both bullets had only grazed his head and knocked him out. The driver door glass redirected the first shot, and Larry moved forward for the second, causing both only to graze him. He was fortunate. An ambulance took Larry to OHSU emergency, as it was the closest emergency room. Dr. Bradshaw was attending at the time and took over Larry's case. Ramous wondered why Larry hadn't called that morning. He expected him to call in the morning to check in. So, when Ramous got into the office, he called Larry's cell. He planned on telling him to spend another day in Portland. Instead of Larry, he got Dr. Bradshaw. Larry's cell was in his coat pocket and taken out and set on a counter in the emergency room. Dr. Bradshaw answered when it rang. He just finished bandaging the officer and assigning him a room. Hello. Can I help you? Ramous recognized Bradshaw's voice. Hello, is this Dr. Bradshaw? Are you calling on behalf of Mr. Catch? Yes. Can you tell me what has happened to my officer? Is this Dr. Bradshaw? I'm at a loss, but yes, I'm Dr. Bradshaw at OHSU. Who am I speaking with? This is Chief Rignor with the Tillamook Police. Mr. Catch is one of my officers. Is he all right? He will be fine, Chief. However, I'll let Portland Police fill you in on the details. Mr. Catch should be fine in a day or 2. I have the name of the responsible officer you can speak with, a Sergeant Detective Hill at the downtown police station. I need to finish with Mr. Catch. If you would please call him, he can give you the details. I would let you speak with Mr. Catch, but he's asleep at the moment. Goodbye. Goodbye, Doctor. Bradshaw was evasive and somewhat rude, although Ramous knew Hill, so there should be no problem getting the information he needed from Hill. A woman answered. Portland Police. How may I direct your call? Hello, is Detective Hill available? 1 second, please. Hello, this is Detective Hill. How can I help you? Ramous recognized Hill's low, scruffy voice immediately. Hi Derek. How are you? Ram? Yeah, how have you been? Just fine, buddy. How about you? And, to what do I owe the pleasure, boss? Well, my officer was shot while on a stakeout. I already know his condition, but what of the woman, the young reporter, he was protecting? Right. I just got back from the scene. Sadly, she and her boyfriend didn't survive the assault. Ramous, although saddened and angry by the news, was grateful Larry was alive. What happened? We got a call about a body lying in a doorway this morning. When we arrived on the scene, we found a young man by the name of Steve Williams, lying halfway on the front porch of the residence. He was deceased. Once inside the house, we found a young woman in the dining room. She was also dead. Someone shot both in the head at close range. As for the officer, we didn't find him until 2 hours later when a patrolman saw him slumped over in the driver's seat of his unmarked car. He parked his vehicle across the street. He was out cold. Fortunate for him, the shooter grazed both the back and the front of his head. I assumed he must have been moving when he was shot, and whoever shot him didn't check him afterward. Why was your officer on the street, Ram? It's not your jurisdiction. He was on protective assignment. He was to protect the reporter and certain information she was carrying. I'm sorry, Derek, it's a complicated case and on a need-to-know basis, and I couldn't get anyone other than my department involved. I didn't mean to step on anyone's shoes, but I had no choice. Again, I sent the officer to watch over the young woman reporter, who was to expose corruption in a major corporation. Did you find any files or other media at the residence? No, there were no files or anything to explain the shooting. I'm coming into town. How about meeting me at the Black Tiger? Do you remember the Black Tiger restaurant? Yes, I do. The last time I was there, I was with you. It's noon now. Let's say we meet at 4 p.m. Does that work for you? Yes, I'll see you at 4 p.m., and I'll tell you what I can then. This investigation was getting too dangerous. These creatures move with impunity. He wasn't sure if he could handle it on his own any longer. He stopped at the hotel before going into Portland. Peter caught him in the kitchen. He sensed Ramous was upset. What's going on, Chief? Officer Larry Catch was shot last night. He will be fine, but I'm overwhelmed at how easy these creatures move and act. Do you have a gun, Peter? Not with me, but I can handle one. I have a concealed carry permit and 3 guns at home. Do I need to go get them? You have weapons and went on the run without one. I wasn't planning on shooting anyone, Ram. Do I need to go get them? No, I have an extra 9mm with 620 round clips I'll give to you to carry. I don't want anything to happen to the help, and I can't bring anyone else into this investigation until it has saturated the news, and I'm not sure that will happen anytime soon. Someone murdered the young reporter I met with, along with her boyfriend, last night, and neither one survived. Peter understood the seriousness of the situation as he and Ramous went upstairs to the office. Ramous reached in a drawer and pulled out the 9mm and 3 extra clips and handed them to him. The way Peter handled the pistol made it clear he knew what he was doing. I practiced at least once a week for the last 5 years and am a great shot. Also, I have this same gun. Good, just be sure you have it on you at all times and don't shoot anyone without knowing who they are first. Ramous ate a quick lunch and left for Portland. While driving into town, he thought about how to respond to Derek's questions. Ramous didn't want to lie to Hill, because he was not a liar even to his own hurt, but he needed to figure out how to answer questions without putting Detective Hill in danger. Just as he parked at the Black Tiger, his cell rang. It was an officer from Seattle who was applying for Ramous' second in line. He put an advertisement out on police channels for the position. He concluded that Larry was not the right fit for the job. Hello, Chief Rignor. I'm Detective Margaret Jensen, Downtown Station, Seattle, and I understand there's a position open, and I want to apply, if it's still available. Actually, I have no intention of putting a woman into the position. It requires too much physical work, and I've heard what they say about the Seattle police. What? They are 10 times better at their job than Portland police? I may file a grievance, Chief Rignor. No. It's a well-known fact they're lazy and useless, sitting for long periods in their cars eating too many donuts while high on strong coffee 24/7. So, go right ahead and file a grievance, little lady. Maggie, can you come to Tillamook this weekend? I'm reopening the bed and breakfast, so come and stay for the weekend. I have to meet with Derek in about 2 minutes. We can talk then. I'm sure we can work it out. Okay, Ram. I'm already excited about coming and can't wait to get on the Oregon coast. See you then, Honorable. Margaret, whom Ramous always called Maggie, was a long-time close friend of his. They both advanced through the Portland ranks together. But she made detective 1 week before he did. It was she and her husband that Ramous was on his way to visit when he got into the accident. Ramous imagined how nice it would be to have her around, especially under different circumstances. She was every bit as good a detective as he was, and he could trust her with anything. He hoped this investigation ended soon so he could hire a second-in-command without worrying about them being in danger. He didn't need to worry about Maggie, but he worried about her husband and daughters. Once it hit the news, every law enforcement agency will get involved, and he can concentrate on the person or persons who killed his officers and friends. Ramous took a seat in the restaurant and waited 25 minutes before Detective Hill showed up. Sorry, I'm late. There was another murder, and I'm assuming it relates to the 2 last night. How so? Someone murdered Billy Johnson's editor, a Mr. Charles Belmont, at the Oregonian. What's going on, Ram? What are you keeping from me? These murders make little sense, and I believe you're in the middle of it. It's a matter of national security. Tonight, the news will expose this whole mess. After that, we can talk all you want. So, be patient. I'll contact you and let you in on everything. Trust me with this, Derek. All right, but I expect you to tell me everything. I need to solve these murders, and it sounds like more than just murder. It's for your own safety that I keep this to myself. How was the editor murdered? Someone broke his neck. His secretary came into work this morning and found Mr. Belmont on the floor in his office. The ME figured he had been dead for only a couple hours. Ramous knew St. Paul wanted those files, and if they knew of their existence, they'd come after them. Did they find files or paperwork in his office, related to a project called the Angel Project? No, no files this time either. What's the Angel Project? I can't tell you other than asking that question. This isn't good, Derek. I suspect more people will die. Have your local officers on alert. Tell the officers to be observant in the neighborhoods where the St. Paul Corporation has a footprint. Again, I can't tell you why, but tell them to keep their eyes out for any unusual activity, okay? If I didn't know you better, Ramous, you'd be in police custody right now. I understand, Derek, but several people have been killed because of this investigation. I want to keep you around for a while longer. Again, when the time is right, I'll fill you in on everything. Has the forensics team completed their work at the scene of the young reporter? Yes, they finished around 3 this afternoon. I need to talk to Belmont's secretary, if it's possible. Sure. Did you want to eat first? No, I want to talk to her before the evening news goes on tonight. Okay, I'll get her address and we can go now. Hill called into his office and got the woman's address. An older woman answered the door. Ramous asked, "Hello, Sherry Wilson?" "Yes, I'm Sherry Wilson," she answered nervously. "Hi, I am Police Chief Ramous Rignor, and I believe you have met Detective Derek Hill earlier. I have a few follow-up questions regarding the death of Mr. Belmont. Would you mind answering them? I don't mind, but I'm still in shock. I'll answer to the best of my ability. Please come in. Both men sat on the couch as Sherry took a seat in an overstuffed chair across from them. Ramous asked, Sherry, I'm sorry you have had to spend hours speaking with the police, but I need to ask a couple more questions for myself. Did anyone out of the ordinary or anyone you didn't recognize come into your office over the last couple of days? She paused for a moment, and then said, yes. A young man came into the office, asking for Billy. He was odd and moved around like he was handicapped. When I told him she was not in the office, he asked who her supervisor was. Can you describe him? He stood about 6 feet tall, with short blonde hair. When he looked at me, his eyes were a brilliant blue. He must have been in his late 20s or early 30s, although he had no facial hair, clean face, and he never smiled. He was well dressed in a blue suit. We get people wearing suits all the time in the office. That's probably why he didn't particularly stand out, but those eyes, I wouldn't forget. Did he say anything else, other than ask for Billy or her supervisor? No, it was a brief inquiry. Afterward, he left, and I saw him get on the elevator. Sherry, I want you to meet with a profiler so you can give his description, so we can get an idea of what he looks like. Would you mind meeting with one? Yes, I want to do so. I want this person found if he's the one who killed Billy and Charles. Sherry cried. Both Ramous and Derek stood to console her. After she calmed down, they left. Once outside, Hill turned to Ramous. Ram, were you aware of the young man? No, but I suspected someone might come looking for Billy. They apparently found out she had the files on the Angel Project and shared the files with her editor and a few management types of the paper. But I wouldn't have expected the man to have known that. Why he killed Belmont, I have no clue. Ramous followed Hill to the Portland police station, where they both took a seat in the coffee shop. Derek was more than curious and kept grilling Ramous about what was going on. Ramous had to leave when Derek acted angry for not getting the answers he wanted. Derek, I need to get going. I still have a long drive ahead of me, and I want to get back before it gets too late. Please keep me posted on any additional information you come across. I'll keep you updated on everything I can. When my investigation is complete, we will sit, and I'll confess everything, okay? All right, Ramous, I'll keep you to your word. See you later, buddy. Bye, talk to you later. Ramous left Derek in the dark. Nothing he could tell him would help with his investigation, so it was better to leave him safe. Ramous stopped at the hospital to get Larry. The doctor released Larry, and he and Ramous drove back to Tillamook, leaving Larry's car behind. They planned to come back and retrieve his car at a later date. Ramous asked him about the shooting, but Larry told him everything was normal, quiet, and uneventful the total time he was watching Johnson until he was shot. There wasn't much else to say about it. Larry had a headache and tried to sleep most of the way back. Ramous dropped him off at home and went home himself.